Well, today's March 1st, first day of the month, 322, 3122, I should say. Today's reading is 64 to 66. We're going to actually start on the end of 63, just because that's where the section starts. And I want to kick it off with some reading from Jackson Rising. So yes, this is Collective Courage Book Club. But for those that don't know, Jackson Rising is a book that let me see if I can get in the camera. Sorry, my background is not allowing me to show it. um, Basically, it is a book that documents and describes the progression of Cooperation Jackson, which is a Mississippi um, based organization that really put a lot of work into planning how they wanted to affect their community, and they affected their community profoundly through ways of gathering and understanding what their common needs was, creating community, and through that community they were able to put forth um, legislation as well as members into the political arena, city council, and even mayor of their city, which was very profound. Um, as you know, traditionally, uh, politicians are just kind of put forth, or they kind of come out of the community, but not necessarily a community birthing a politician. And what I mean by that is the Chokwe Lumumba, who they were able to get to be mayor, was in alignment with their ideals very closely, and he had been handpicked by the community to be a part of the mayoral race. And so I would say that they were a success, and they are a success because they were able to do that. And also, he was voted in by not just the black members of that city, but also the white members. And so he had an overall appeal, but his roots was very rooted were very deep into the community. So this book, Jackson Rising, is just a good way for us to go deep into an example of a cooperative that had a plan, and they enacted it, and they're still enacting it. And the political side of it is just one side of it. They also created co-ops that work in tandem with each other. They work with youth, where they educate youth on cooperative economics and political education, as well as community organizing, creating leaders. They also are tapped in with 3D printing and the what's coming next in technology, all out of Jackson, Mississippi. So, us over here in California, we're seen as those who lead the way. But it's not just in Cali, y'all. They also lead the way out there, and we learned a lot from them. I got to go to Africa with some folks from this organization, and these are people with soul and people with just so much passion for their communities. And so that's why we pull from this book to encourage y'all to take a look at this book as well, to give just another example on top of what Collective Courage gives us. Because Collective Courage is a great example of a wide variety of cooperatives that we should learn from. So she doesn't go super deep into each one, although she does go deep into a few. But she mentions a few and tells you enough for you to understand their importance and their context. While Jackson Rising is about one, and you get chapter by chapter on their plan, on their failures, on what they plan to do in the future, and the pivots that they've had to make. So it's just all just to give you inspiration for if you're creating a cooperative or if you are a part of a cooperative, how you can improve, and to give you some context as to where we are in this collective history of cooperatives. Um, so what's up, brother Tud? I see you in here. Good to see you, King. Sister Natalie, what's up with it? How you doing? Okay, we got okay, Z in the building. Okay,
What's up?
yeah. Shout out to all my folks. So where I wanted to read was this quote by a Guyanese professor named Walter Rodney. Um, this is in Jackson Rising. I say this very deliberately. Not even those of us who stand on this platform can tell you that the remedy in Guyana is that a new set of people must take over from old set of people, and we will run the system better. There is no solution to the problems of Guyana. The problem is much more fundamental to that than that. We are saying that working class people will get justice only when they take initiative, when they move themselves. Nobody else can give freedom as gift. Someone who comes claiming to be a liberator is either deluding himself or he is trying to delude the people. He either doesn't understand the process of real life or he is trying to suggest that you do not understand it. And so long as we suffer of a warped concept of politics as being leadership, we're going to be in a lot of trouble, right? So I just wanted to read that because I feel like that was such a profound uh, few sentences. This brother did not pass the responsibility of liberation to anyone else. He said it's on us. You know what I'm saying? We are our own heroes. We have to come to our own aid. And I often see when individuals and organizations do that, other people show more respect for them. Other organizations show more respect for them because they see that no one is needed in their progression. No one is needed for them to go. They are a proud people, you know. So we must be a proud people. We must be proud organizations and figure out solutions for ourselves. And this is not to say that we do not reach out for help, but our first priority is to find answers ourselves. You know, individually, I encourage everyone to meditate. You know, and as organizations, we have to meditate. You know, in Repair Nations, we have meetings often weeks long, or that go out for weeks to recap, you know, what we did, you know, to make sure that we understand Sankofa. You know, you must understand your past to go forward. So, you know, we spent many weeks just debriefing how our conference went. And, you know, that was the longest debrief process I have ever been a part of, but it really opened my eyes to see, like, for one, there's the work that we're doing is layered, and there are many interpersonal the interpersonal is a layer, and that we must understand, just like the individual is a layer, just like organizational is a layer, you know. So we must recap and we must debrief and we must break down like what we did well and what we have to work on so we can go ahead and figure out where that answer lies. Mama Mia said we must lead ourselves. Ashe. Natalie said, "Go fetch it." Right, Sankofa, go back, go get it. Your ancestors already gave you the breadcrumbs, and sometimes we need people to put those breadcrumbs in a line for us, and that's what the sister Jessica Gordon Nimhart did. She put the breadcrumbs right in plain view. You know what I'm saying? She took the dirt, that the leaves that grew over it, she peeled them back. You know what I'm saying, and cleared a path so folks can see like, okay, this is the way that we can go. And if we go this way, we know what some of those potholes and we know what some of those valleys and where the peaks are. All right, so let's bring it to collective courage. Like I said at the bottom of 63, where it says early African-owned cooperative. The Chesapeake Marine Railway and Dry Dock Company, the Coleman Manufacturing Company, and the Lexington Savings Bank were early joint stock companies that may have been cooperatives. They were definitely collectively owned. Marcus Garvey and the Universal Negro Improvement Association also made use of joint stock ownership models to develop black businesses. Right, and joint stock, what is that? That's a way of doing business where folks own a piece of the company much way before it's publicly offered, right? It's not like the same. It's the same concept, but it's not like publicly traded stocks. You can go buy a stock on Robinhood. No, no, it's more like these people are the believers of this organization, oftentimes the workers, and then they buy into it. They set a value, and that is a way of, thank you, Mama Mia, community financing. And that way, you do not have to reach outside of those people. Meaning, you might have opportunities to get money from people outside of that, but there might come some stipulations and some stipulations and some rules that you got to follow that may not be in alignment with you. So there is much to gain from community sourcing. What's up, Z? You got something to say?
Yeah, I do. So I was gonna write it while you talking. Just basically your rule. It's rules and regulations. Basically, coming up your, like I said, with your own ideas, but more over like an urban way. That's all I want to say. That's it.
Yes.
Am I on point?
No, you on point. You on
Okay,
point.
cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, Z is one of our most passionate book club members.
Oh
Always
man.
bringing some insight. So I appreciate it. Natalie, you got something to say?
Yeah, I got a question. So I really struggle with this chapter. I'm trying to figure out. So, like, companies are coming together, right? So let's say we in this group, right? Z's cutting hair. Maybe you
Yep.
baking bread. I'm fixing things, and we decide to trade with each other, right? So that I get. But in this chapter, they're like they're using this pattern to become banks. Like, how does this collaboration between cooperatives become banks or insurances? That's what I'm not
Mm.
getting out of this chapter.
Um, the most simple way I can explain it is um, there was a need because these traditional institutions would not treat us right. Us being black people were not treating us right. Banks and insurance companies might even have taken our money and still not treated us right. And so there was a need for folks to come together and create alternatives to that.
I mean, I get that. I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
wondering the mechanics of it.
Oh, the
Like,
mechanics.
let's say
Okay.
all of us decided to be with each other and create this like minute little ecosystem of like working and doing business with each other.
Mhm.
Like, they're describing that out of those cooperation between businesses, a banking system came out of that, or insurance system came out of
Mm.
that. So how does
I
that happen?
can I can
Okay,
put
Mama Mia.
something to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically what they did is they created associations where everyone saved together, kind of like a susu. And so as it got bigger, they were able to help more and more folks. And then once you get like a certain threshold, you can become a bank or a credit union. Of course, it takes like many thousands of people to do it, but they really were able to create a structure like that where everybody saved together, and then through that they lent it back out and became a bank.
And so did they need to invest those? So it sounds like like a membership fee, but do they need to invest then the membership fees to make that grow? Or does that happen just by just everybody pays into the susu?
So they start off with everyone paying into the susu until they get a certain amount of dollars, and then they could either take that money and let people lend, like borrow it back and forth. And so that was like the main part of the money. So these people are putting in money, but they're also investing. So that when they needed the money, they didn't just take their money back out. They were like, well, let me just get like a little 2% loan so the main money can stay there. And through that interest, we can continue to keep building the assets.
Love it. Thank you so much, Mia.
No worries.
Yeah. Thank you, Mama Mia, for explaining that very well. Um, would you like to pick up on the next paragraph? The Chesapeake Marine Railway and Dry Dock Company.
Sure, here we go. Between 1865 and 1883, African American caulkers and stevedores owned their own company with the help of prominent African Americans in Baltimore, Maryland. According to Du Bois, the Chesapeake Marine Railway and Dry Dock Company was organized in part to combat the growing demand among white laborers in Maryland that all free blacks be fired from the shipyards and leave the state or get a master. Ooh, that boils me. Okay, Baltimore had become famous for its caulking, but it was the black caulkers who were the most proficient in the state. That's according to Du Bois' notes. Shipyard owners were not willing to reduce. Can you move the book up? Shara, can you move the book up? Shipyard owners were not willing to reduce their Black workforce until white mobs attacked Black caulkers and stevedores on their way home, and white carpenters boycotted shipyards that hired African American caulkers. At that point, a group of Black men decided that they needed to own their own shipyard to protect and secure jobs for Blacks. The jointly owned business. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yep. I was just about to start reading. The jointly
Oh,
owned business, which Du Bois called a cooperative, was quite successful. The Chesapeake Marine Railway Company bought a shipyard encompassing the property that included the spot where Frederick Douglass described sitting on a cellar door studying a stolen spelling book to teach himself how to read. Wow, that's like full circle, right? The brother was getting his literacy, and then somebody
Hey,
came and bought that same place.
can I say something? My bad. Sorry to cut
Yeah,
you
go
off.
ahead, Z.
So y'all remember Malcolm X? He didn't really know how to read or write until he was 20 years old. So that's still young, but he didn't really. He was illiterate until he was 20 years old. And I found out when I was in college. So I was like 20. I was like, yeah, around that age, 20, 21. So this man, he didn't learn how to read and write until he was 20 in prison. So you feel me? Anything is possible.
That's
Anything. True. I'm sharing this with everybody on this group chat. Anything. How you was talking about literacy? That just came in my mind. I know it's off. It has nothing to do with this book, but I mean, you know.
Well, I think it does have something to do with it because a lot of people, a lot of blacks were under those same circumstances. Z,
Yeah, a
could
lot
you?
of Black people. Oh yeah, my
Yeah.
bad. Yeah, I got you.
Oh, okay, yeah. If you still have something to say, it's good. But I was just gonna say if you can mute yourself. Yeah. So a lot of black people at that time were going through similar things, and for them to come together and create the things that they created, even with that in mind, is amazing, right? Malcolm X is a great example of someone who went from the bottom to the top in terms of his growing his capacity and fulfilling his potential, right? Not necessarily monetarily to the top, but he was able to start behind. He didn't start where everyone was who had the resources. He started behind and built himself up and really could have went a whole nother way, and he did for a bit. But that awareness and that him becoming literate changed his life, much like it did Frederick Douglass, and these opportunities created, I'm sure, these opportunities of coming together in cooperative businesses created opportunities for these adults, their youth, to get some type of stability and further their generations. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it gets deep. All right, so according to Du Bois, the founder of the company raised $40,000 by selling 8,000 shares at $5 a share. They paid off their $30,000 mortgage in 5 years, and employed between 1 and 200 black and white caulkers and stevedores per year. In the 6th year of operation, the company paid stock dividends to members totaling $1,400. In the 7th year, it paid dividends of 10%. And for 4 years after that, the paid dividends of between 4 and 10% per year. Therefore, we know that for at least 6 years, the company was profitable enough to pay dividends. The company went out of business in its 18th year, in part because of repair problems, changes in the industry, and management issues, but also because of the refusal of the owners of the ground to release the yard to the color company except at an enormous rate of increase. The ground rent had doubled. The cooperative went out of business soon after. See, they do it. They did it so scandalous time and time again. Like, oh, y'all want to build? Oh, y'all want to get up? Oh, yeah, we said pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but when you start doing it, we about to take your shoes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's very ironic. You want to read the next paragraph, Amamia?
Yeah, and I would say that back then it was much easier to see how the Black people were getting shut out. And so they knew that they had to band together to make it work. These days we're still getting shut out, but it's not as easy, it's not as apparent. And so so many times Black folks aren't like, oh, let's all join together against this, big adversary. It's kind of scattered, but the adversary is still there. So
Yes. Did you want to pick it up at the significance of this joint stock company, Mama Mia?
sure, the significance of this joint stock company is many-fold. The success of the Chesapeake Marine Railway and Dry Dock Company showed that African Americans could successfully use joint ownership in the face of racial oppression and ostracism, particularly to save jobs, create jobs, and accumulate wealth. It showed that African Americans could run a substantial industrial enterprise at a profit. The company also changed the nature of industrial relations in the state of Maryland. Du Bois observes that even after Chesapeake's demise, the organization of the ship company saved the colored caulkers, for they are now members of the White Caulkers Union. The failure of the whites in driving out the colored caulkers put an end to their efforts to drive colored labor out of other fields. And although the company failed, it must surely have been an object lesson to the whites as well as to the Blacks of the power and capability of the colored people in their industrial development. Du Bois reminds us that even if the shipyard went out of business after 18 years, much was accomplished, particularly in terms of job creation, profit distribution, civil rights, unionization, and the overall security of the livelihoods and reputation of Black stevedores and caulkers in Maryland. And just as an aside, I think it's kind of cool that the Black stevedores were like the best at it. So they couldn't get rid of them. They're like, no, we don't want your shoddy work. We want these folks to do hella good, right? And so that's just something I thought was cool.
Yeah, it's many ironies in these stories. Like we have to do all this work for free as slaves, and we got good at it during that time. And then when they let us out, we were a threat to those who were in the free market because now we are used to getting paid nothing and doing good jobs. Now we have the option of getting paid, and we still have those skills, and so that is something that definitely messes up the equilibrium for those who are used to a certain level of uh, monopoly, if you will, over the amount of work that's available. Um, all right, Coleman Manufacturing Company. The Coleman Manufacturing Company of Concord, North Carolina, was incorporated in 1897 with $50,000 of capital stock. According to a letter from W.C. Coleman published by Du Bois, Coleman Manufacturing was a cooperative stock company of colored men who proposed to build and operate a cotton mill in the interest of the race. Many of the stockholders were influential Black businessmen and white citizens around Concord, North Carolina. After raising the first 50,000, they offered the second 50,000 at $100 per share, payable in installments of 10%. The company produced about between 40 and 50,000 bricks a day and planned to begin bricklaying for the mill that would employ 300 to 400 people. It planned ultimately to establish a boarding house, truck farm, livery stable, and dairy. According to Coleman's letter, the white-owned Concord Times enthusiastically reported on March 10, 1898 that the Coleman Cotton Mill is to have from 7,000 to 10,000 spindles and from 100 to 250 looms, and by their character will be allowed to spin, weave, manufacture, finish, and sell warps, yarns, clothes, prints, or other fabrics made of cotton, wool, or other material they own at present. In connection with the plant, about 100 acres of land on the main line of the Southern Railway and near the site of the mill. The mill and machinery with all the fixtures complete will represent an outlay of nearly $66,000 and will give employment to a number of hands. All right, and these last few, this last paragraph says the newspaper projected that the cotton mill will be a successful Negro business, calling the new board of directors some of the highest lights of the Negro race. The Concord Times also noted that it was the only cotton mill in the world-owned, conducted, and operated by the Negro race. In the 20th century, a few cooperative sewing factories owned by African American women in North Carolina will also be successful and important businesses in their communities. Coleman foreshadows these later developments. So we'll end there with the reading. Yeah, I just want to say that, yeah, I appreciate these stories because they let us know how much work was put in. I mean, if you look at some of the numbers that were raised, you know, in the past we would do these inflation calculators, and we'll bring that back. I'll make sure I have it ready, but you know, inflation went up 7% to 20%, depending on who you ask, in the last year. To recently. So when you look back at these numbers, we're talking about in 1897, a black cooperative was able to raise $50,000. You know what I'm saying? That is definitely six figures today, if not almost seven. Um, so we just got to understand, like, there was a lot of power that we were able to harness, and it seems like whenever we have, whenever we're kicked out of somewhere is when we want to get our act together, which I respect, because it's very honorable to be like, okay, if you don't want to rock with me, we'll rock with ourselves. Um, I wonder if we can tap into that before the tragedy occurs, and this time around. You want to say something, Mama Mia?
No, I think that is, I'm just inspired by the whole thought that he got 8,000 people to throw in $5 each. What is that, like 20, $30 today? And, you know, didn't just screw it off, actually built a company that paid them back. That's awesome.
Thank you, Kingdom. 50,000 in 1887 would be 1.3 million today. So we're not talking about any chump change. $1 million is life changing money, even by today's standards, considering how so many people live in poverty in our communities. So a business that's running them numbers is employing multiple people, and providing a stability that is, like I said, life changing. So just something to think about, something to keep in mind. Remember, these are supposed to be inspirational stories for you to draw from and to employ into your own cooperatives as you see fit. So uh, that's it, my folks. If nothing else, if you guys don't have anything else to say,
Hey, can I say something?
yeah, go
I want
ahead,
to step
Z.
outside right quick. My bad. So I ain't gonna lie. I've been in the head of the game of the book for about 2-3 weeks now. So I've been on like around the page 65 for I've been in the head because you feel me. I read the book before, but I'll go back. Like I said, it's off topic. I'll go back and read with y'all, basically. So no, I want to ask, how do y'all feel about credit unions as a group?
Yeah, we rock with it.
Okay.
Yes, yes to
Cooperative
credit
credit unions,
unions.
especially, yes.
Yeah, okay. Because I was reading the book that was talking about something about it didn't really say credit union. It just popped in my mind. So whatever pops in my mind, I have to talk about it and express how I feel. But,
Well, the reality is, credit unions often followed these cooperatives being started, especially like agrarian, farmers, farm workers. In order for them to pull their money, they started their own credit unions. You know what I'm saying? So it was something that was what's the word we learned yesterday? Concomitant. You know what I mean? It often followed closely behind the start of a farmers cooperative. The next thing would be a credit union, so folks could pull their money and make greater moves, get access to loans, and all of these things that we were pushed out of in the traditional community. So you were on point thinking about that, Z.
Yeah. I read it. You feel me? Just the idea popped in my head. So I'm like a pop quiz. You feel me? Whatever I see or I think, I'm gonna express it because I can't be selfish and just hold that shit in. You feel me? I can't. Excuse my language. I can't hold all that information in. I'm gonna reword it. I apologize.
It's all good. You know, some of our greatest leaders operated the same way. You know, they had to speak on things, and even when it was uncomfortable. So you are a leader, and we appreciate your presence.
Oh, for sure. I'm done. Peace, y'all.
All right, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow. Same black time, same black channel. Peace.
Bye, everyone.
Peace, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace, y'all.
Thank you. Thank you.